Good afternoon and happy Friday. We're already looking at several changes to our weather pattern as we wrap up this work week and go into the weekend. Even more changes are on the way. Hey everyone, I am Chief Meteorologist Darrell Whittinger at the Central Oregon Daily Weather Center, and today we started off with areas of fog. We had a whole lot of cloud cover, but those clouds have thinned out, and we still have a few clouds out there, but no rain in sight, and more sunshine is expected, but not until after Saturday. Saturday brings with it its own set of changes, and those changes revolve around a weak cold front that's going to be pushing through the Pacific Northwest. So we are going to take a deep dive into your most reliable forecast, look at what has been happening, the changes that are expected through the next couple of days, how those changes are going to impact us across the high desert, and what happens next. When do we get that sunshine? When's our next warming trend? And when's the next chance of rain after that? All these questions are going to be answered here through the next several minutes. So let's start off with what we're seeing right here, right now. Through the highest elevation of the Cascades, there is still some low-level cloud cover. Look at the Bachelor camera. That's the top of Outback, overlooking Tumalo Mountain, Bend on the other side of that, and there's very low visibility. Now, across the Tri-County area, some of the Oregon Hazards Lab cameras, like this Bend camera, have been zooming in on it looks like some small burns. We haven't seen a really significant smoke plume at all, but these are fire detection cameras. So when there is a smoke plume, they're zooming in on them. The rest of Central Oregon looking like those other cameras where we have tons of sunshine, a little bit of cloud cover, and change is in the air along with that October feel because it is cool, it is chilly. And when we look at ODOT cameras from Oregon Department of Transportation, we see the shadows on the ground. We do not see any slick spots or wet roads, and we just know that we're finally starting to see that sun shining across the high desert. In the last 12 hours, we've had a few light showers, a couple of sprinkles that really happened during the early morning hours, and there hasn't been any lightning activity for the last 12 hours. There were a few cells that were producing some light thunderstorm activity yesterday evening, but that's well in our rearview mirror. We're not even worried about that. In fact, satellite and radar shows that where we have these thin, low-level clouds, it's not bringing any precipitation at all. So when we just take a tour across the state, there are some showers in the Cascades of southern Oregon as well as in south central Oregon, but again, no lightning associated with that. Through southeastern Oregon, a few hit and miss showers, but that is about it. In fact, when we look at the bigger picture, what we see is a big transition happening across the entire state and most of the Pacific Northwest, but this is a brief break between systems because by tomorrow the next cold front rolls into the Pacific Northwest. That next cold front brings its own set of changes, brings another chance of precipitation, and pumps up those wind speeds. So let's go ahead and look at our infrared satellite imagery. There's an enhancement that really helps to pull out those tall clouds where you see the reds in the clouds over Calgary, even getting over towards Billings. That's where there's a potential of some lightning. But for us on the high desert, we actually see the opposite. When we zoom in just a little bit, those are thin, light clouds that are fizzling out across the high desert. Our next cold front isn't strongly pronounced. You can vaguely see it here on the satellite imagery where my mouse is going back and forth, and that holds off to push through the high desert until we get towards Saturday, and that's the system. That's going to bring us several changes to our weather pattern, and those changes really start up tonight during the early morning hours. That's when we start to see this cold front beginning to impact us. So what does that mean for us? Well, when it comes to relative humidity, it's moderately dry. We're in the 40s and 50s, a few 60s, and remember, all these are in percentages. We're not critically dry like we were during fire season. In the last 24 hours, temperatures topped out in the 60s with some 50s and even 70 degrees in Warm Springs. Actual temperatures this evening, what we're seeing around 5:10 is we were sitting in the 60s with some 50s on the map, and now this temperature range is below average for this time of the year. It is running a little bit cool, but that's one of the changes that we're looking at through the next couple of days. Even in the last 24 hours, we're running between 2 degrees colder and 5 degrees warmer than it was this time yesterday. So with this extra sunshine, we're catching a little more warmth. Now through tonight, it gets chilly, it gets cold. We're falling back into the 30s with a few spots getting down to near and below freezing. And the average low temperature is 36, 37 degrees, so we're actually going to be running near average for this time of the year. The average high temperature is 69 in Bend, 71 in Redmond. And so through the next couple of days, we have below normal highs, near normal lows. But Saturday, that's our next cold front. That's when we start to see some sprinkles. By Sunday, after some AM fog, that fog lifts up, it dissipates, we get tons of sunshine, and that sunshine leads to our next warming trend. So here's how this plays out. We have one last weak cold front. That cold front pushes through Saturday, bringing some showers, some sprinkles, highs in the 60s and 50s. A little breezy at times. We keep some of that wind by Sunday, but after that AM fog, where we have it, actually lifts up and fizzles and dissipates, what we're looking at is more sunshine. Very similar to today, except clearing could actually start a little bit earlier. By Monday, still under that sunshine, sunny and warmer, and temperatures are really starting to crank up by then. By Monday, we're closer to average for this time of the year, mid to some upper 60s, a few 70s. By Tuesday and Wednesday, we're in the 70s with a few 60s. So that's going to be a pleasant warming trend, and it all happens after this cold front rolls through on Saturday. Even as it does, though, we're looking at some sprinkles. By the time we get to Saturday night going into Sunday, areas of fog are going to be possible. Not for everybody, though. Where we have it, it lifts up, it dissipates, we get back to sunshine. Then Monday, under tons of sunshine, the warming trend really sets up. So now let's go ahead and look at a long-range forecast model. This is the GFS. This is one that we typically don't show on air. However, it's not as high resolution, but it helps paint a picture of what's going to happen after the normal forecast model. So take it with a grain of salt, but so far, this week it has been doing pretty well with what's happening. Now, through Tuesday, sunshine. Through Wednesday, sunshine. Until the afternoon and evening, a few clouds are going to be possible, especially as we get into Wednesday night going into Thursday. By Thursday, a little extra cloud cover, but still dry. By Friday, not quite getting that chance of rain. That's just one forecast model. Others are showing a little bit of rain, especially by the time we get to Friday. So future precipitation shows that here through the next couple of days, we still have a chance of rain. That's going to be Saturday, where these hit and miss showers, some sprinkles are going to be possible. Now today, winds haven't been too strong. Gusts alone between 9 and 22 miles per hour. Actual wind speeds about 5 to 15 miles per hour coming out of the north. And we're almost to the peak of wind speeds. It's going to be a little breezy at times, and then around and after sunset, which today is 6:44 p.m., we start to see tapering winds. Then a gentle breeze is expected. By tomorrow, Saturday, that's when the cold front comes through. Again, breezy at times. And by Sunday, keeping a little bit of that energy in the air. We could have some strong winds for a couple of hours. So for tonight, we're talking 30s with a few 20s and a couple of 40s out there. Now keep in mind, some of us, look at some of the higher elevations. We're talking Sun River, Lapine, everywhere between. So Three Rivers, Deschutes River Woods, maybe getting into some other parts of the high desert like Paulina, some of those higher elevations, near and below freezing. Others, not quite that cold, but frosty starts are expected. Now by Saturday, we're talking 60s and some 50s with that in and out cloud cover and a chance of some showers. Are going to be very hit and miss, and not a complete washout or anything like that, but it's going to be a thing. Even keeping some of those sprinkles, some of that drizzle where we have areas of fog by the time we get to Saturday night going into Sunday. And notice temperatures are coming up a little bit. Some of us, overnight lows I should say, some of us could get some areas of frost, and if where you are has fog and temperatures are below freezing, some freezing fog could even be possible. After that, tons of sunshine, a big warming trend that brings us well into the 70s by Tuesday and Wednesday. By Thursday, we catch more clouds, a few sprinkles are possible. By Friday, we could be looking at some showers. Since forecast model confidence diverges at that point, we're looking at a coin flip of whether or not we're going to get that. But once we get a lot closer to Friday, next Friday, we'll be able to paint that picture a little bit better. So our weekend headlines for this Friday, October 3rd, include frosty starts and a light breeze. Now winds will be breezy at times, especially as this front pushes through Saturday and the day after. After Sunday is when we get down to a light breeze. Now this week, cold front could bring some sprinkles, but starting Sunday, we begin to clear out. We catch that sunshine and we get our next warming trend. It's the latest in weather. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News. We'll have the latest headlines and your most reliable forecast at 5 and 11 on ABC and at 6, 7, and 11 on CBS. See ya.